The grand water trine of 2025, when three cycles become one. November 17, 2025 marks the emotional climax of the year's water cycle. At exactly 25 degrees, three planets form a perfect grand water trine. Sun at 25 degrees Scorpio, illuminating hidden truths. Jupiter retrograde at 25 degrees Cancer, reviewing emotional foundations. Saturn retrograde at 25 degrees Pisces, dissolving false structures. Three separate water storylines initiated at three different new moons throughout 2025 collapse into a single karmic decision point. This is the day the water speaks. What is a grand water trine? A grand water trine is formed when three planets occupy all three water signs, that would be Cancer, Pisces, Scorpio, at compatible degrees, creating a 120-degree angle, trines, between each point. This forms an equilateral triangle in the zodiac, but this is not just geometry, it's a resonant field. A trine is a 120-degree aspect of harmony and flow. But a grand trine is a circuit, a closed loop. Once activated, it begins to behave like one organism with three organs, each feeding and amplifying the other. In water, that loop becomes emotional memory, ancestral intelligence, intuition, and soul resonance, energetic sensitivity, psychic permeability, and the transmission of emotional lineage. Water trines don't work through logic, they work through knowing without knowing. They link the subconscious, the emotional body, and the spiritual immune system. In this grand trine, each water sign plays a distinctive role. The sun at 25 degrees Scorpio, the deep well, the burial ground, the truth beneath. It's about excavation, exposure, transformation, death, and rebirth. Jupiter retrograde at 25 degrees Cancer is exalted, the root, the memory, the nourishment, and insecurity. It's about protection, belonging, ancestral patterns, and emotional foundation. Saturn retrograde at 25 degrees Pisces, the dissolution, the cleansing, the release back to source. It's about surrender, transcendence, karmic completion, spiritual purification. Together, they create a triangle of release, Pisces, revelation, Scorpio, resolution, Cancer. A grand water trine is often misunderstood as peaceful, mystical, or gentle. It's not. It's powerful, compulsive, and karmically binding. At 25 degrees, a critical degree of intelligence, spiritual inheritance, and karmic memory, all three planets are hitting the peak intensity within their elemental water cycle. This trine is not soft, it's pressurized destiny. Water trines create flow without resistance, which means what needs to be felt will be felt, what needs to surface will surface, what needs to end will end. You cannot block this. You cannot avoid it. You cannot intellectualize your way around it. Water always finds its cracks. Both Saturn and Jupiter are retrograde, and this changes everything. In a grand water trine, retrogrades turn the flow inward, increasing introspection and internal processing, karmic timing and fateful events, psychological excavation, ancestral review and pattern recognition, karmic payback or karmic restoration. Retrogrades compress the meaning of the planet onto the inward world. The expansion becomes introspection, the structure becomes dissolution. Jupiter is the planet of expansion, growth, belief system, and optimism. It's in Cancer, and while Jupiter's in Cancer, it expands memory and emotional history, roots and ancestral patterns, the need for belonging and safety, emotional truth and vulnerability. But don't forget, it's retrograde. Jupiter forces you to confront why you grew up the way you did, the emotional patterns that shaped you, where your belief systems is based on fear or family conditioning, where your insecurity contradicts your potential. Jupiter in retrograde in Cancer is ancestral philosophy, belief systems handed down through blood and bone. This is not intellectual belief, it's emotional inheritance. Saturn retrograde at 25 degrees Pisces is the final dissolution before structure returns. Saturn, the planet of structure, responsibility, limitations, and karmic accountability. Saturn in Pisces dissolves structures that were never sustainable, tests faith, surrender, and spiritual maturity, brings accountability to hidden fears and unresolved grief, washes away illusions of control. But Saturn's retrograde. Saturn revisits responsibilities you've avoided, boundaries that need repair, promises made to the self, spiritual contracts, and karmic agreements. Saturn retrograde in Pisces says, clean your inner temple. This is karmic accounting on the level of faith, surrender, hidden fears, spiritual exhaustion, and emotional maturity. The critical timing. Saturn has been retrograde since July 2025. It's now 10 days away from stationing direct. This period is called the slow station, when Saturn is heavy and crystallizing, demanding integrity, pulling everything into karmic alignment. The closer Saturn gets to standing still, the more it says, enough illusions, enough avoidance, face the truth and rebuild. Today equals the emotional verdict. When we get to December, the structural and physical manifestations. Today is about the realization. When Saturn stations direct, that realization solidifies into reality. Saturn station direct will re-solidify the Pisces leg of the trine, but right now it's still dissolving what cannot move forward. This is the emotional purge before structure returns. On June 25th, 2025, the Sun met Jupiter at 3 degrees Cancer, beginning a new Jupiter-Sun synodic cycle. Every Sun-Jupiter conjunction marks the start of a new 12, 13-month chapter. New beliefs, new optimism, new purpose, new expansion, new philosophical direction, a new karmic curriculum. This cycle began in Cancer, the sign of emotional truth, protection and belonging, vulnerability, foundational safety, lineage, and family. There was also a new moon in Cancer that day, creating a triple conjunction with the Sun, Moon, Jupiter at 3 degrees Cancer. This was the emotional beginning, the moment the wave started. Now, 5 months later, we're hitting the waxing trine phase of the cycle. In any synodic cycle, the trine phases are critical checkpoints. The waxing trine, 120 degrees after the conjunction, is the growth phase, expansion, external opportunity, building momentum, sprouting of the seed. This is where we could see what was planted in June beginning to reveal itself and be tested. And here's the key. Jupiter goes retrograde at the trine because the seed needs revision. This is the universe saying, you can expand later, but fix the emotional foundation first. Jupiter retrograde at this trine means the expansion is coming, but your heart needs upgrading before your life can expand. Review the emotional blueprint before chapter 2 unfolds. Confront the insecurity and fear that contradicts your potential. For context, here's where this Jupiter cycle will go next. The opposition, 180 degrees, is about the full illumination, the culmination, tension. It will happen when the Sun is in Capricorn, opposite Jupiter in Cancer. Then it will move on to the waning trine, which is 240 degrees away. It's about integration, wisdom sharing, and it's the harvest. After the opposition, as the cycle starts to come to completion, Then we got the return to the conjunction. New cycle begins around June 2026. That cycle will begin in Leo. We are currently at the first major test of this cycle, and both Jupiter and Saturn being retrograde makes this deeply internal, a karmic checkpoint. This grand water trine is the convergence point of 3 water new moons that occurred throughout 2025. Each one activated a different planet, and together they form a complete emotional storyline. There was the Pisces new moon in February, the spiritual prelude. We had the sun and moon in Pisces, but a stellium nearby with Saturn, Mercury, Neptune, and the North Node, all in Pisces. Even though the moon wasn't conjunct any planet exactly, this was still a massive water activation because Saturn, structure and karma, Neptune, dissolution and purification, and the North Node, karmic direction, were all in Pisces. This new moon brought the spiritual assignment, karmic cleansing, dissolving of old timelines, redirection of faith, emotional liquidation, clearing old patterns so Jupiter could later plant the Cancer seed. It was about release, surrender, spiritual clarity, compassion, transcendence. Pisces dissolves. This was the invisible beginning, the spiritual clearance that made space for what would come next. We moved on to the Cancer new moon in June. Emotional beginning, Sun, Moon, and Jupiter all at 3 degrees Cancer. This new moon began the new Jupiter cycle, the Sun-Jupiter conjunction that planted the seed for the 13th month expansion period. This new moon brought the emotional root system, a new belief system forming, family karma, and ancestral stories. What you protect and what protects you, the foundation of belonging and safety. We saw themes of home, family, nourishment, vulnerability, emotional truth, and legacy all come to the forefront. The Cancer beginning, this was the initiation point, the seed moment, the birth of the current emotional storyline. Now we move on to the Scorpio new moon this week, the revelation. Sun, Moon, Mercury, Cazimi the Sun, Mercury mirroring Jupiter's role in Cancer. This Scorpio new moon mirrors Jupiter's Cancer new moon. The Cancer new moon was conjunct Jupiter, expansion and nourishment. The Scorpio moon is conjunct Mercury, introspection, investigation, truth-seeking. This new moon brings the emotional truth reveal, the secrets inside the new Jupiter cycle surfacing, patterns hidden in June's choices becoming obvious, motivations exposed, emotional contracts confronted. Death and rebirth, shadow work, psychological excavation, power, intimacy, shared resources. Scorpio reveals. If Cancer planted the seed, Scorpio excavates the root. This is where the truth beneath the truth comes to light. Mercury acts like the psychic scalpel here, the revealer of truth, the one who exposes the emotional DNA of the new Jupiter cycle. The pattern. All 3 water new moons conjunct planetary activators. Pisces, stellium, Saturn, Mercury, Neptune, North Node. It was about dissolving, spiritual clearance. Cancer, June, Jupiter's conjunction. It was the seed being planted. It was the beginning. Scorpio, this week, Mercury Cazimi is revealing, truth exposed. Each water new moon lit up one side of the trine, one planet at a time, forming a continuous emotional story. And now at the grand water trine at 25 degrees, all 3 storylines converge. What does today actually mean? When all 3 water storyline new moons converge at a single grand water trine, especially with all planets at the same degree, 25, we're looking at something much bigger than a normal transit. This is a karmic convergence point, the moment where the emotional, spiritual, and ancestral cycles that began earlier in the year all meet in one place. Think of it like Pisces was about release this, cleanse this, let go of a karmic pattern. Cancer, June, begin this new cycle, start this new emotional chapter. Now this week, it's about face the truth of both, integrate or purge. It's your choice. When all three energies meet through Jupiter, Saturn, Sun at the exact same degree, 25, the past, the present, and the future collapse into one decision. You hit the climax of the 2025 water storyline. The emotional truth becomes unavoidable. Here are the main ways this convergent point shows up in lived experience, all which depend on how the earlier cycles played out for you individually. Number 1, a major emotional realization. Something just clicks on a soul level, the kind of realization that changes how you see your past, ends a pattern, transforms a dynamic, shifts your relationship with home, roots, or belonging, clarifies a relationship's truth, rewrites your understanding of your own emotional story. This isn't surface emotion. This is truth from the marrow. That means deep. Number 2, a fateful decision. A moment where you choose a direction, commit or release, step into a new role, walk away from the past, take accountability, claim your next chapter. This is the kind of decision that isn't random. It has momentum, history, and destiny behind it. Number 3, the end of a long karmic pattern. This is especially true because Saturn is in Pisces near its station. This could be breaking a generational pattern, ending a family wound, dissolving an emotional trauma loop, healing an old wound that has followed you for years, closing a karmic contract, ending a long-standing internal conflict. Saturn stationing gives this the feel of finality. Number 4, the revelation of the Cancer new moon's intention. Something seeded in June now shows its true colors. That could be a relationship, a move or relocation, a choice you made, an emotional investment, a belief system you adopted, a project or a commitment, a role you stepped into. The truth of that seed becomes obvious, for better or worse. Scorpio doesn't hide, it reveals. It exposes the motive, the fear, the truth, the shadow. Number 5, the emotional consequences arrive. Jupiter retrograde plus Saturn retrograde equals karmic accountability. Ouch. This can be reward for emotional honesty, loss due to avoidance, breakthrough that required struggle, clarity that required pain, confrontation that was inevitable, exposure of what was false, unexpected support where healing was accepted. Water signs deal in consequence that is emotional, not punitive. You feel the truth. Number 6, the turning point of the Jupiter cycle. We are at the first trine of that June 25th Jupiter-Sun cycle. This is the moment where you see what the new Jupiter year is really about. You see what growth requires. You confront the emotional blocks to expansion. You revise your beliefs. You correct your trajectory. Jupiter retrograde at this trine. The expansion is coming, but first you must adjust the core belief. This is the universe saying your heart needs to be upgraded before life expands. Number 7, a moment of emotional fate. Grand trines have a locked destiny feel because the energy flows without resistance, but retrograde pull that destiny inward, creating a sense of inevitability, deja vu, karmic reruns, past life echoes, emotional contracts being honored or broken. This is not random. This is timeline specific. The entire year's water storyline converges into one moment where you must face the emotional truth that changed the direction of your next Jupiter cycle. Or even more simply, this is the karmic reckoning of the 2025 emotional storyline. All three planets are at 25 degrees, and this is not arbitrary. Traditionally speaking, 25 points to intelligence and progeny, manifestation of ideas, creative children, insight and spiritual inheritance, emotional testing and karmic memory. 25, 2 plus 5 equals 7. The number 7 represents equilibrium and rest, reflection and introspection, spiritual mastery, the inner sanctuary. 7 is the number of the mystic, the seeker, the one who must go inward to find truth. At 25 degrees, all three water planets are hitting the critical degree of spiritual inheritance, emotional testing, karmic memory, intelligence that comes from lived experience. This is not a peaceful moment. It is a soul recalibration, a junction where your emotional past, karmic present, and spiritual future converge. A grand trine forms a closed energetic circuit. Unlike other aspect patterns that have openings or tension points, a grand trine is self-sustaining. This creates momentum without friction. Things flow, whether you're ready or not. Karmic completion energy. Cycles that began long ago come to their natural end. Fate-like quality. Events feel destined, inevitable, just meant to be. Emotional saturation. The feeling of unavoidable, undeniable. In water specifically, this closed loop amplifies ancestral memory. You're not just feeling your own emotions, you're feeling the emotions of your lineage. Soul contracts. Agreements made on spiritual level become conscious. Intuitive knowing. Information comes through feeling, dreams, synchronicities. Psychic permeability. Boundaries dissolve. Empathy intensifies. Trines are considered easy aspects, but this is a misunderstanding. Trines provide easy flow, not an easy life. The danger of a grand water trine is complacency. The energy flows so smoothly that you can avoid taking action, avoid making that hard choice, avoid facing the truth. But with Jupiter and Saturn retrograde, this is not a passive transit. The ease of the trine is being used to bring you face to face with what you've been avoiding. Water doesn't force, it seeps, it erodes, it reveals what was always beneath the surface. And today, the water speaks. This is not a day to push. This is a day to feel without analyzing. Listen to your intuition. Notice what surfaces, dreams, memories, conversations, realizations. Allow the emotional truth to be felt fully. Release what is ready to go. Water cannot be forced, it must be allowed. Guess what time it is? Oh hell, he got questions? Yeah, I got some questions. But these questions are not questions to answer intellectually. These questions are here to make you feel into what emotional truth have you been avoiding since June? Go ahead, I'll wait. Where has my insecurity contradicted my expansion? What belief system am I ready to release? What pattern is completing in my life right now? What does your soul want you to know? Where have you been spiritually exhausted or emotionally depleted? Where are you being asked to surrender? Today, the emotional realization, Saturn stations direct, the structural manifestation. What you realize today will solidify into reality by first week in December. This is the preview. This is the vision. This is the truth. December will be the implementation. The highest expression of this grand trine, when you Work with it consciously. You may experience unexpected help and support from invisible or unexpected sources. Legacies and inheritance gifts from the past, not necessarily material, but often emotional or spiritual. Enhance reputation through emotional or spiritual work, healing, or creative expression. Leadership roles, guardianship, stewardship, being entrusted with something sacred. Income or opportunity through service, healing, caregiving, or creative work. Emotional intelligence as the foundation for all success. Soul level clarity that changes everything. Did you say everything? Everything. The shadow expression of this grand trine, when unconscious or resistant to this energy, you may experience insecurity despite abundance, Jupiter shadow in Cancer, loss through poor boundaries, Saturn in Pisces dissolving what wasn't solid, accusations, plots, sudden reversals, the truth you avoided coming back, business or financial instability due to emotional misalignment, worries that undermine success, fear-based thinking sabotaging growth, self-sabotage through rigid belief systems or spiritual bypassing, emotional overwhelm, drowning, victim consciousness. The mature expression of this grand water trine comes through ongoing work to manage inflation, Jupiter, and restriction, Saturn. Appreciating challenges as character builders, balancing caution with growth impulses, avoiding rigid ideologies while maintaining principles, trustworthy integrity, balanced temperament, emotional resilience. This is not about being perfect. It's about being real. The water speaks. Today is not just another astrological transit. It is the emotional truth event of 2025, the moment where the water new moon storyline, the Jupiter cycle, and Saturn's karmic work all arrive in one exact, unavoidable point. Pisces dissolves, Cancer begins, Scorpio reveals, and today at 25 degrees in all three water signs, the three cycles become one. The waxing trine of Jupiter cycle that began in June, the final days of Saturn's retrograde before it stations direct, the convergence point of all three water new moons, the moment where past, present, and future collapse into a single karmic decision. You cannot force this moment, you cannot control it, but you can honor it. You can listen to what the water is saying, you can feel the truth that is rising, you can allow the pattern to complete, you can trust that what is ending needed to end, and what is beginning is aligned with your soul's path. This is not a random day. This is the day the emotional story of 2025 reaches its breaking point or its breakthrough. The water knows which one it is. Do you? If this resonates with you, leave a comment. Make sure you like, subscribe, share with a friend, family member. If you come to the website and hit contact, you can send me a message. I will respond. If you want to show your appreciation, I Am Astrology readings at Venmo, Cash App, PayPal. This is Paul Heath with I Am Astrology readings. Know thyself and balance your energy.